So I want to start with a shout out to the Electronic Freedom Foundation, which champions user privacy, free expression, and innovation through impact litigation, policy analysis, grassroots activism, and technology development. The EFF has two free tools you may be interested in. The first is Privacy Badger, which automatically blocks invisible trackers. And the second is HTTPS Everywhere, which encrypts browser communications. The Electronic Freedom Foundation is a U.S. 501c3 nonprofit, and you can donate online at ericschwartzman.com/EFF. I moved, so this is my new house. So you can see that there's a new background, and it's a lovely little cottage, beach bungalow in Santa Monica, California. And you can see I've got my beach hoodie on. So I'm ready, man. I'm ready for the neighborhood. That's the new background. This is the new home office. Our Bookstagram of the week is presented by the 2020 Secrets of PR report, and it is Sales Engagement by Manny Medina, the CEO of Outsource. So Outsource is a unicorn, billion-dollar valuation software startup that makes software for designing outbound sales sequences so that you can manage those sequences for a sales team. Now, in PR, we manage reputations. We don't do direct sales. But, having read this book and having some understanding now of sort of what the sales team goes through, particularly for B2Bs that are dealing with complex sales, to convert demand into leads, to qualify those leads, and then to hand them off to sales so that they can convert them. Having an understanding of that sales engagement process, modern sales engagement process, I think improves your ability to manage reputations online. So that's why it's the Bookstagram of the week. Also, I'll be interviewing the author of this book for my podcast, which many of you probably don't know about. I do a podcast called the B2B Lead Gen Podcast, and you can find that on Apple or Spotify or anywhere podcasts are available. All right, let's see if Ginny's in here now. Ginny, are you there? Ginny, are you there? Gini Dietrich, are you there? I see her on the line as an attendee. Huh. I might have to kill Demio if we have a fail today. I'm going to kill Demio and move us over to Zoom for webinars. Let me just see what's going on with her. And then even if I can't get her on, I have some news I want to share with you. So bear with me one sec here.
It's there now?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, awesome.
It was showing me as an attendee. Sorry.
Great. That's so good. We're here. It worked.
Woo, yay.
It worked. Thanks for sticking around, everybody.
Sorry about that.
I appreciate it. No, good. Hey, good to see you.
Good to see you. I don't think I have seen you since a PRSA conference in probably 8 years.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be. So, Gini Dietrich, tell us about yourself.
Well, I clearly don't know how to use technology, and I'm all wrapped up in the coronavirus right now. Crisis.
What's going on with that?
About 2 weeks ago, clients were kind of like, what's happening here? What should we be thinking about? What should we be doing? And we were like, I mean, you should be ready, but we didn't. And it has, in the last 5 days, including the weekend, it has just exploded. And messaging changes every day. I wake up every morning and I think, okay, what's going to derail me today? Because it is just, and you create messaging and you're ready to go and you communicate with employees and stakeholders, and then everything changes the next day. So it's a fun time right now.
So I'm excited to have you on PR Tech Wednesdays. Tell us a little bit about Arment Dietrich.
It is a PR firm. I started it 15 years ago. 15 years ago. Wow, yeah. I think it's 15 years next month. And we did really traditional PR at the time. It was, events, reputation management, media relations, crisis. And as the internet evolved, so did we. And I would call us more digital marketing now, because we, and we'll talk a little bit about this, but we started using the PESO model internally at the agency in 2010. And as it evolved and we started to use it more often for clients, and then I wrote Spin Sucks, the book, I launched it more to the PR industry more broadly so that it could be a model that communicators can use in their own planning and programming.
And give us sort of the abbreviated description of Spin Sucks and what it is. Yeah,
it started as a blog in 2006, and it too has evolved. It was a blog, or still is a blog. And then I wrote a book of the same name. Then we launched some professional development, and then a podcast came. And so pretty much from a content, professional development, media perspective, it is all things.
And who's Arment?
It's my maiden name.
Oh, it's your maiden name.
But all the big PR firms have two names.
Got it. Got it. Yes. But there's no hyphen in there.
No, I did. I mean, because you look at it, it's Golan Harris, Fleischman Hillard, Weber Shandwick. They all have two names. None of them are hyphens, so that's why I did that.
Interesting. Yeah. So Spin Sucks. Does Spin suck? I mean, why the name? Talk to us about the name Spin Sucks, where that came from, what inspired you to, run with a blog with that title.
Typically, and I think it's gotten worse today with fake news, but typically when you're at a cocktail reception or in the elevator or you're sitting next to somebody on the plane and they say, what do you do for a living? And you say, oh, I do PR. You get one of two responses. Oh, you're a spin doctor. Or, oh, you lie for a living. No, neither one of those things are true. And sure, just like every industry, as you well know, there are some that do those things and there are some that create fake news and, do all the unethical things that people do. But for the most part, most of us are really ethical human beings and we abide by a code of ethics. And so when we were thinking about it, and remember this was all the way back in 2006, we were talking about how much spin sucks. And it was, we wish that people would stop saying that. And our venture was to change that perception. And one of our interns goes, well, why don't we call the blog Spin Sucks? And we all went, huh, okay.
What is spin?
And I would say that even some ethical PR professionals say this, but it's the idea of spinning a message or spinning a story so that it's more positive and light. And, it's fake news, it's lying, it's creating messaging that makes you look positive when things are negative. It's spinning a story.
Yeah, it seems like, and we're sort of in this post-truth age now where everything is spin. I mean, the facts
it does feel that way, yeah.
Harder to find.
Yeah, it does feel that way, big time.
So you basically started in PR yourself, or did you start?
I did
at an agency.
Yeah. I was at an agency. I was at Fleischman Hillard.
Okay.
For a long time, yeah.
Do you remember the first PR tech service that you bought?
It was probably Cision because we used the Big Green Bacon's books.
Right.
And then as they took it all online, I bet that's probably what it was.
Bacon's Online, the
Yeah.
CD-ROM.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
And
old.
do you when you bought that, what was the onboarding experience like? Do you remember?
I
Like
have
they just
no
send you the
idea.
CD-ROM, or did you get any instruction or any help?
I don't remember. I mean, I know we got the CDs, and I'm sure there was some internal training. Probably somebody at the agency went through their onboarding and then trained the rest of us, is probably what happened.
And now today, you know, with Spend Sucks and Arment Dietrich and the work that you do in professional development, you know, talk to us about, you know, the PR tech tools that you use to do your job.
What do we use? We have a CRM, we have marketing automation, we have a media database, certainly, you know, video capabilities. We like Zoom a lot. We use Slack for communication. What else do we use? Analytics and Google Data Studio. IBM Watson. I mean, it's a big stack.
And what CRM do you use?
We use Pipedrive.
Uh-huh. And what marketing automation do you use?
ActiveCampaign.
Tell us about that.
I like it. I mean, I think that every tool has its pros and cons. The only thing I don't like about it is they claim to have a CRM and it doesn't do what I think a CRM has to do. So I've had to add in Pipedrive from that perspective. But you know, it's great for automation. It's great for campaigns. It's great for segmentation. So we use it a lot to create specific messages to specific audiences. And when we graduated from MailChimp probably 3 years ago, it was probably one of the easiest transitions because it's really user friendly.
So when you're considering, you know, changing up a PR tech tool, what are the considerations? You know, what are sort of the top line considerations? Is it the technology, the people behind the technology, ease of use, integration? What are the things?
Yeah, I would say probably integration and the ease of switching. So typically if we're going to switch or we're going to ask a client to switch to something else, it's because they've outgrown what they already have or we've outgrown what we already have. So it's pretty painful, as you know, to change software, especially something like that. So the ease of use, the ease of transition, and then what else it integrates with. So it does have to integrate with everything else that we use.
So, you know, there's all these providers out there now that have a vertically integrated solution that basically does it all. Maybe not as good as the point solution, but at least it's integrated.
Mm-hmm.
Have you thought about like going that way, or have you investigated that approach?
I have.
Yeah.
It's painful, you know. It's kind of like changing your bank account. Sometimes you get to the point where you need to change your bank account, but it's a painful process.
So, but you didn't go that way. I mean, you're sort of best of breed and all these different providers. You don't have one solution.
No, we don't have one solution. No.
Yeah. Did you look at any one solutions that do it all? Did you consider that?
I think when we switched, we looked, at the time there wasn't anything that from a vertical standpoint that would give us everything. So we still had to integrate. So, I mean, we looked at Marketo and Infusionsoft and HubSpot and all of those. And certainly they have their pros and cons as well, but it didn't, and I felt like the transition to those was too much from a user. I mean, you have to go through a week of training for Infusionsoft. And we just weren't willing to do that. So we looked for stuff that we could integrate really easily without the vertical piece of it.
What do you use for media monitoring?
Talkwalker and Brand24.
Tell us about Brand24.
It's really good. It picks up probably more than you need. So it'll pick up, like if I have spin sucks and I put it in quotes so that it'll get it. It definitely gets that, but you'll get things like people talking about football games. That spin sucks when it's not, so there's not really relevant. So it does pick up everything, but you have to wade through what's relevant and what's not.
Yeah, that's the big challenge of media monitoring. So, I'm finishing up a 50-page media monitoring buyer's guide, where I compared, I did a features chart, side-by-side comparison of all the major providers, not Brand 24, but, the bigger ones that you would be familiar with. And TalkWalker's on there. And that was one of the things that, after talking to all the experts, kept coming up. If you overfilter, then you get all good stuff, but you choke it down so much that you also miss stuff. Yeah. And then if you open it up too much, you get everything, but you have to manually go through and see what's right. And there's all sorts of big promises about AI, but it's not there yet.
It's not there yet. Yeah, it's totally not there yet.
Natural language understanding is not something machines can do.
Right.
And if what you're trying to do is measure message pass through, how do the concepts you're putting out there get repeated? That's more than just a keyword. That's tracking an idea.
Right.
And that still seems to be a manual process. But if you're on the line and you're listening and you want a copy of that report, go to ericschwarzman.com/blog and put your email in. I'll probably be sending it out on Monday. That's what I'm thinking. So let's talk for a minute about content marketing. Because I know you have said, if you want to get clients, content marketing is a waste of time.
I've not said that.
You didn't say that? I watched that when I went to spinsuckspro.com.
You don't need to have it all.
And I heard the pitch. The pitch was, look, there's better ways to generate client leads than content marketing. Content marketing is, not the way to go.
That's not entirely true. I do believe that content marketing is incredibly useful, and email marketing along with it is probably the best way to go. But I think what people do is they say, okay, I have to do videos, I have to do Facebook Live, and I have to do Instagram stories, and I have to do Medium and LinkedIn Pulse, and I have to have a blog, and I have to do podcasting, and they, I have to have white papers and webinars and all this kind of stuff, and it gets too overwhelming and it gets to be too much, and so it just shuts down and it's not successful. So what I'm really saying is you don't have to do all of it. Choose one thing and choose something that you're passionate about and do a really good job of that, because if you do that, so if it's blog writing or it's, research, original research, or it is videos, or it is podcasting, whatever it happens to be. Like for me, podcasting is the bane of my existence. I don't like it. I don't learn that way. I hate it.
Do you don't like to listen to podcasts?
So freaking, it is one of our best generators of leads. One of the best. But I hate it.
Which podcast?
Doing my own. The Spin Sucks one. Hate it.
The Spin Sucks podcast. Mm-hmm. Because Inside PR is pretty much pod faded, right?
Yeah.
I was trying to find current podcasts because I wanted to listen to some of your podcasts before this interview. And I went to Inside PR and then I went to the Leadership podcast, but I didn't find anything current. I wish I would have been able to find the Spin Sucks podcast. But anyways, I'll listen to it after.
Yeah, but it is, I would say it's probably the best generator of leads right now.
So content marketing is not a waste of time.
No. Trying to do it all is a waste of time.
You also said something like in that you have that masterclass at spinsuckspro.com. Mm-hmm. And I watched the masterclass, and one of the things you say in there is that, content marketing is not the way to go. What you need is a process.
Right.
So talk to us about that idea of a process.
Well, it's not any different than what we've talked about for years, right? Which is you have your funnel, or now I guess we're calling it a flywheel, but figure out how people are finding you. So for me in particular, for Spin Sucks, I know that the podcast is a great generator of leads because people listen. They feel like they know you. They get to know you. It's kind of a little bit celebrity, quote unquote. because you're in their ears all the time, right? So they hear your voice, they hear how you think, all of those kinds of things. And so they feel like they're getting to know you. And so if you know that that's at the top of your funnel, or wherever it is that your flywheel is coming up, if you know that that's one of your best lead generators, then what is the process or the funnel that you're going to create? So they listen to the podcast, and then what? Are they subscribing to an email, and are you doing a drip campaign that has specific calls to action? And is that leading into they're becoming marketing qualified, and then do they become sales qualified, and then they become a client or a customer? So you have to think about what that process looks like.
Let's talk for a minute about the PESO model. And let me just, because I know you've done sort of a new version of it with more detail. So let me just bring that up on the screen, and I want you to sort of talk us through it. Let me just share it.
By the way, I really like that you're outside and March. It's very nice.
Yeah, it's so nice out here today too.
Nice.
Yeah, it's just beautiful in Santa Monica. Such a great place to live. Okay, let me go in here let me blow this up a little bit so you can see it. Can you see it, or should I make it a little bigger here?
I mean, I have it memorized, so.
And is it bigger in the screen now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So this is a Venn diagram that you created around these different channels of media. Owned media, shared media, earned media, and paid media. So sort of talk us through, what led to you coming up with this and how you use this in your work today.
It's funny because if I had realized that it was going to take the PR industry by storm like it has, I would have been a little more strategic about it. I would have probably trademarked and copyrighted it when I wrote the book versus after. But really, the real reason it came about, at least the Venn diagram piece of it, is because in Spinsucks the book, I had written about the process that we used internally with my agency clients, which was paid, earned, shared, and owned media. And as I was describing it in the book, my publisher said to me in the editing process, it'd be really nice to have a visual of this. And I was like, okay. So I hired a designer off Upwork, and I handed him the couple of chapters, and he created this. And this is a newer version. The version 1.0 is significantly less robust, I would say. But for 8 years ago when it launched, it was really good. And because we didn't really strategically think it through, it was more just in reaction to the publisher asking for something to visually show it. It was more tactical in nature. So, under shared media, for instance, it just had a list of the social media networks. And so when we went to update it last month, we realized things like Google Plus and Vine were still on there. I mean, geez, that's how old it was. So we really looked at it from the perspective of, okay, if somebody were to take this and say to a client or a CEO, this represents the work that I do, how do we look at it strategically? So it's not just a list of tactics, but it actually shows if I integrate the 4 media types, I can create reputation and I can create search engine results. If I integrate earned and shared, I can build partnerships and community. If I integrate shared and owned, I'm doing distribution and promotion. If I'm integrating paid and owned, I have lead generation and marketing communication. So you look at how all of those pieces come together from a strategic standpoint, and those are the biggest changes we made. So it's no longer just a list of tactics. And while certainly it is a list of tactics, it's more strategic from the perspective of how do we integrate these 4 media types to have the best result for our organization. So
we know we have these these types of media, but what's the big idea here? Like, what is the big concept of the PESO model?
The idea is, typically, and not for every PR professional, but typically we are known for earned media or media relations. And I still, in today's day and age, I still get phone calls from prospects saying, we want PR, which really means, can you get us in the New York Times or in TechCrunch or VentureBeat, right? That's fine and dandy, but what I've learned in the last 15 years of owning my own agency, and certainly in the experience I had at Fleischman too, is that earned media alone isn't going to result in sales. And CEOs understand that it's valuable, and they understand that it builds thought leadership and brand awareness and credibility and all those kinds of things, but they want PR professionals to demonstrate that the work we do is correlated to sales. And it is, but you can't do it with earned media alone. So when we were starting to figure this out internally, 10 years ago, we were trying to figure out how do we bring in other types of tools in our toolbox to be able to demonstrate that. And what the PESO model shows is that you have to have a foundation. And if you don't have all four sides of your foundation, if you don't have paid, earned, shared, and owned media as part of your communications program, you'll still be successful, but you won't be able to correlate your efforts to results like a CEO wants you to.
So, I wrote that piece for your blog,
which is amazing. Yes.
That sort of integrates this model into the growth stage of a company. Idea being that, a startup, a change up in pivot stage, looking for product market fit, a scale up that's found a product market fit and is in growth mode, a grown up that has gotten as big as they can get and there's no more headroom in the market, all have different needs. And so, you can sort of create a timeline of which channel is most appropriate based on the corporate growth stage.
Yep.
So, but you get these calls, right? And someone says, I want earned media. So can you break that down for us by sort of stage of growth? Like if a startup calls and says, I want earned media versus a grown-up calls and says, I want earned media, how do you evaluate that ask based on the growth stage of the company?
First, I will say that the article you wrote for SpinSucks on that is amazing, and I keep referring back to it and telling people to go read it because you break it down really well in that from the growth model as well, but also you have it starting with owned and then going into shared and earned and paid. So depending on where the growth of the business is where you go, which I love. The challenge, and I think what we do with clients is we say, okay, if you want earned media, if you want quote unquote PR, we have to look at what you've already created. Do you have content? Are your social networks active and engaged? Are you creating something that is different than everybody else, or are you creating something that's the echo chamber? Are you producing content that provides thought leadership and new thinking, or not? And if the answer is yes, they have all of that. They have great content. They've developed thought leadership. They have reputation. They have credibility, which probably would be at that grown-up stage. Then they're ready for earned media. But if they haven't done those things, and they may have social media set up, but it's not engaged, and it's not allowing them to build and promote and distribute their content, then that's where you have to start. You have to start there. And it doesn't matter if you're a grown-up company or a startup. At that point, you have to start there.
And it's funny, it's no different than pre-internet, because pre-internet, when a company came and said they wanted earned media, typically the answer was, okay, well, first we got to get your press kit together.
Fair. Yep.
Your dual pocket presentation folder,
right.
Your backgrounder,
yep, all the photos, yep,
executive bios,
yep,
press photos,
yep,
and a couple of soft news releases that we have to get out just to pepper the marketplace so people know who you are when we release your hard news. So it's really not any different. That's just sort of an adaptation of that, because owned media, well, I mean, that's really just a modern press kit, right? But now it's blogs or whatever, podcasts, whatever you're doing on your own. And then, having a community so that if someone searches you, they see that, you're not a ghost, that's sort of the shared media stage, right? And before that was, well, let's get some trade press hits, And once we have some trade press hits and a press kit, then we'll go after the New York Times.
Yep.
But it seems like, for a lot of companies, particularly startups, paying a PR person to get to lead them through the owned and shared stage may not be the best way to go. Like they may be able to do that because you can't outsource your voice anyways.
Right.
That's selling
Absolutely.
soul.
Yep.
So is there a better staffing model, was my thought, for getting that done, so that when you do hire an agency, you can be successful and you're not, burning, having a high burn rate just to get to earned media. Rather, you turn on the earned media spigot when you're really ready, and you let the media relations folks go after it after the preliminary work's been done.
Yes. I also will argue that unless this is something that you do professionally, it's really challenging to do even on your own.
Media relations?
No, any of it, shared, owned, any of it, because I have a client who I adore, but before we started working with them, they were doing stuff on shared that I was like, you can't do that. And they were certainly engaged, and they were, sharing content and doing all the things that the best practices tell you to do. But they were also doing some things that, were against terms of service, and they shouldn't have been doing. And so there is some advantage to having a professional in there saying, okay, if at the very least crafting a plan and a timeline and helping to, guide that, versus saying, okay, you guys go at it and let us know when you're ready, because it doesn't always work so well.
I don't know, seeing as what we've been living through politically, cringeworthy is no longer necessarily a bad thing.
This stuff would have gotten their social network
tolerance is so high now,
Fair.
There is no wrong anymore in this post-truth age.
Fair.
I'm going to stop sharing here. So look, you've got a lot of experience blogging now, right? You're really active on the blog. You guys publish every day on Spin Sucks. So tell us what you've learned about publishing this blog every day. That's a huge commitment.
What have I learned? Well, in the first few years, I learned that there needs to be a voice, a consistent voice. And there needs to be something that you say. We had certainly a vision and what we wanted to do, but there was no consistent voice. And it was terrible. It was terrible. I really have no idea why we kept it going, but I'm glad we did, but it was really bad. I've learned a ton about search engine optimization and how to optimize content so that it shows up in search. I've learned.
Does SEO still work?
Yeah, it still works.
Are keywords good enough?
For now, I think that's changing.
You have to have backlinks at this point.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
You got to have the backlinks, right?
Yeah.
Even the best SEO, unless it's like a really niche keyword, it's very tough now to get traffic through straight SEO.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It still works, and you still have to have it. But yeah, you can't, just like you can't reach your fans organically on the social networks anymore.
So
you have to include
every post. Like, do you
spend
time on every single post?
Absolutely.
What do you use to SEO it? What tool?
Well, we have Yoast on the back end just to help monitor the good, bad, or ugly. And then I personally use Moz, but the team uses SEMrush or Ahrefs, and some people just use Google AdWords too. So.
But what I know, you guys supported me. I wrote the post, and then you guys edited it and helped me get it better. So at that point, did you guys SEO it? Because I didn't SEO it.
Yeah, we do.
You do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And do you have certain keywords you're going after, or do you just kind of look at the post and say, okay, where would this fit? Or...
Yeah, I think for yours specifically, we probably did the PESO model, and I don't know without looking at it, but I would venture to guess that's what we did. But yeah, we don't try to fit a keyword in just because it's a priority for us if it doesn't fit the content. So we'll look at it and think and look at it and go, okay, where can we compete? and what's the topic and where can we compete, and then we'll SEO it for that.
So, but are you always doing the SEO after the article, or are you ever starting and saying, hey, these are kind of the terms we need to be ranking for? What kind of content could we write about this?
For us, we don't do it that way. We write and then we optimize. For clients, we typically start with, here are our priority keywords or phrases and what kind of content can we create for that.
And I mean, you do a lot of professional development work now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know you did a lot of work in the e-learning space.
Mm-hmm.
We both did, actually. I created a whole library of online courses still online.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of crash and burn in that world. A lot of people spent a lot of money and went out really, aggressively to try to, create passive income from online training. Sort of talk us through what happened there? Did it work? Didn't it work? What was sort of the lesson learned? What is consensus now about whether or not that approach is effective?
It has been incredibly effective for us. Partly, I think, because we're one of the few in the PR industry who are doing it. But also because we've been really focused and strategic about how we approach it. And to your point, I think a lot of people went out and said, okay, we're going to do a learning management system. We're going to create all this content. We're going to beautifully produce them. And it's going to be all this stuff. And then we're going to send an email and we're going to sell it. And that's just not how it works. And I think part of the challenge is that people hear passive income and they automatically think that it's passive, that you don't have to do anything. And that's just not the case. Working on the professional development side of things, on the Spin Success side of things, is the hardest I have worked in my entire career. And sure, I can wake up in the morning and have 3 emails that say you made a sale, but everything leading up to that, and so that's certainly passive, but everything leading up to that is, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of work. It's not passive.
So tell us what you're doing now in the e-learning space.
We have just launched the PESO model certification, which is an online course to teach you how to implement a fully integrated PESO model program. And the certification is offered through SI Newhouse School for Public Communications at Syracuse, which I'm super crazy excited about. But yeah, they have put their stamp of approval on it. So if you go through the course and you pass all the assessments, just like a college class, you'll have a certificate and certification from Syracuse and SpinSucks.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's cool.
And how much is it? And how's that going? How long has it been out there? What are your expectations for it?
It's only been out for about a week and a half.
Wow.
We launched it first to a really small community of about 600 people. We're launching it publicly this Friday.
And
so
what went into creating that? Is it video on demand? Is it like slideware? What is it?
It's video on demand. It's on demand video. So it's sort of like you subscribe to a Netflix series and you watch it when it's convenient for you.
Do you see like a full screen of someone presenting, or do you see a slide and hear their voice? Or
yeah, it's a combination. It's a combination of me presenting a presentation lesson or audio, depending on what it is that you need to do. There's homework. You have an assessment. There's 8 modules. You have an assessment at the end of every module. And then there's a big, huge test to certify you at the end.
What LMS did you use to, do they use to serve it up?
Kajabi.
And what did you use to author it in?
Zoom.
Oh, so it's not, there's not like multiple choice questions integrated into the course.
Yeah, so the way Kajabi, the way we set it up in Kajabi, which is an amazing tool, by the way, is you do all the lessons and then you can add an assessment at the end. So then the assessment is, we did mostly multiple choice, and you have to upload homework too. So there's that piece of it. And then you have to pass.
Is it SCORM compliant?
Yeah.
Have you heard that?
Yeah.
SCORM, yeah.
Yep.
So then is that basically how the university does it? Basically, they take that SCORM score, and then they were able to take that into their student management system and sort of manage the certification process that way.
Yep.
So what do you think? I mean, what are your expectations for it?
I mean, it's $1,250, $1,250.
Okay.
We have really high expectations. I mean, really high expectations. I'm also trying to temper that a little bit, but our goal is to get the curriculum into many schools, and that the certification through Syracuse doesn't prevent that. So our goal is
not exclusive.
No, the certification itself is exclusive, but getting the curriculum into schools is not. So what we anticipate is by 2024, the first classes will be graduating with their communications degrees and the PESO model certification on top of that. And so by 2024, those kids will be coming into the workforce. So it's definitely a longer term play for sure, but we have pretty high expectations for it.
So the deal with Syracuse, like they didn't pay for the course.
No.
They're just kind of like a distributor.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then they do give you the certification, so they got to have a taste.
They do.
Yeah. But then if you were to go to other schools, would they be involved in that deal? Or
they are not. No. Yeah, we wanted to make sure that there wasn't that Syracuse didn't prevent us from being able to get in other schools, and they were great about this. They agreed that if they got a taste of that or they did a revenue share of that it would be a conflict of interest for other schools. So they're not involved in that at all.
Got it. Can I ask what it costs to produce?
I really don't know, because it's mostly time, and it's mostly my time.
Right. Okay. If someone wants to enroll, where can they find it?
Spinsucks.com/academy.
Okay. Spinsucks.com/academy is where you can sign up to get certified in the PESO model.
Correct.
Awesome. And that'll be available this Friday, the 13th.
Yeah, Friday the 13th.
And it's awesome because, well, I don't want to say it's awesome because, but if you're worried about coronavirus, this is the way now to learn.
Right. You may be stuck in your house for 2 weeks, so may as well.
How long would it take to do it if you just?
It does take 8 weeks. So we have it set up so that it releases a new module every seven days. So it does take 8 weeks.
Is there any interaction?
Yeah, we have a SpinSucks community where students can hang out and ask questions and brainstorm and get help and all that.
Got it. But there's not like an organized community tied to each module.
No.
Got it. Okay. Well, cool. That sounds really great. I'm excited to hear, what happens with it.
Thank you.
So let's talk about TikTok.
Oh boy. Okay.
Have you been checking it out?
Oh yeah.
It's really addictive, isn't it?
It is. The challenge for me on TikTok specifically is I have a really good friend who works in what I'll call underground, really bad people behavior stuff.
Uh-oh.
And TikTok is one of the worst places for bad people.
Wait a minute. I thought you can't say bad words or anything, that it's all like,
No, I mean like pedophiles and...
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's one of the worst.
Wow. Well, let's not talk about that part. Let's not talk about
that's the problem I have with it. Yeah.
Have you seen Gary V's?
I haven't, no.
Yeah, no, he's doing it.
I pay attention to my nieces on it.
And also, I've been checking out the top 10, people on the top 10 TikTokers. And the funny thing is, half of them are Indonesian kids. Isn't that interesting? And they have tens of millions of followers. And you start to see they do the little dance.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same dance or if it's like a version of the dance. I can't figure it out. It's the same song. But the interesting thing is that these Indonesian kids are doing it too. And a lot of them are starting to show up in Disney t-shirts. So I wonder if Disney is paying them.
Maybe.
I mean, the number one TikToker now has 40 million followers.
That's insane.
Yeah, 40
That's insane.
million followers.
That's insane.
And it's kind of like, I don't see like anything. I mean, certainly there are videos of attractive women sauntering and that type of thing, but there's no nudity, there's no profanity.
Right.
It seems to be pretty clean.
Yeah.
Which means it's advertiser friendly.
Yeah, and I don't know that we've certainly the marketers haven't ruined it yet, but I don't know that we've necessarily found a business reason to use it yet.
Well, obviously they're just going to start selling ads.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that the kids are showing up in Disney shirts, that's product placement 101 there.
Yeah. But I'll tell you, man, it's fun to watch. I like it.
It is fun to watch, yeah. I have a 11-year-old niece, and every time we're with her, she'll be like, okay, I'm going to play this song, and you're going to sing this part, and she gives us all assignments, and then she TikToks it. I don't know what
that's
right.
Nice. My son gets mad at me when I look at it, and he thinks like, Dad, why are you looking at that? So lame. So lame, Dad. What are you doing? He's 15, He's cool.
You're not cool.
Yeah, and I shouldn't be there anyway. What are you doing, Dad? You're not supposed to be there. I don't comment. I just look.
Right.
I made a TikTok of him playing piano, and nobody looked at it. But I'm telling you, I think TikTok's hot, and TikTok's going to.
Oh, it is hot for sure. I just happen to know the scary part of it.
All right, so let's talk about PR attribution.
Oh, my favorite topic.
Yeah. So what is PR attribution? PR attribution is the idea, right? We're all being asked to be data-driven. It's a data-driven world, and we all have to be accountable to the bottom line. For example, if you're in advertising, you can easily measure the people who were exposed to an ad who purchased versus the people who weren't exposed to an ad who purchased, and see whether or not the ad had impact.
Right.
When you're dealing with something amorphous like a reputation, and you say, oh, well, the guy saw the story in an article, he saw a story where I was mentioned in it, and then he bought my product, I don't think that stands up to CMO scrutiny, frankly. That argument.
No, it does not.
Nor
should it.
Yeah. So my feeling is PR attribution is the new AVE.
I don't agree with that. I think that if you can truly attribute it all the way through from, all right, this person or this group of people got to the website because of this article, and then they downloaded content, they followed this call to action, they followed all the way through the process and then became a customer, for sure you can attribute it to at least the entry point was that.
Yeah, so, totally. If it's a direct click, of course.
Yeah.
But to say, in advertising, you could say they were exposed to the ad, they made a purchase. It's not direct.
No, it's not direct. No. And that's why the PESO model, I think, is so important, because you have to have all those different touch points for it to be effective. Right.
But how do you measure it?
I mean, data will give you that. If you have your analytics set up correctly, and two things. Number one, there's certainly software you can use from an attribution standpoint. Trendkite does it, although since Cision bought them, it's kind of gone down a little bit. They're not innovating like they were. Air PR, which is not what they're called anymore, and I can never remember the new name, but they do it, but they're really expensive. So what we say is just track when an article runs, make sure that there's a link to your website in it so that you have that data in analytics, and then connect it to your CRM and build it into your social networks and all that, which is what Google Data Studio does really well. And you can start to see the trends of people. So let's say an article ran in VentureBeat and 2,000 people clicked on a link in that article and they came to your website, and 20% of them downloaded content. Now I have their email address and I can track them through the process.
Final question. When you're talking to a potential new client, what are some red flags where if when they come up, you say to yourself, this is not going to be a good fit for me? What is a red flag that a client is not a good client to invest time in?
Well, number one is if they don't have budget.
So
And you'll hear, you'll hear
no
things.
money. Yeah, that's a good starting
That's a
point.
good one, right? But you'll hear things like, well, I don't know. Can you tell me how much it'll cost? Yeah, $1 million. Like, yes, I can tell you how much it'll cost. Everything that you just told me you want is $1 million. But I know you probably don't have $1 million to invest in PR. So let's talk about a real budget. And if they can't give that to you, then that's definitely a red flag. But for me personally, and this will, it depends on what you're trying to achieve. But for me personally, it is, they just want media relations. I'm not going to do that. They don't understand the value of all the other media types and how that will affect their business growth. If they can't or won't tell me what their goals are, the business goals are, if they're super secretive about numbers or won't give us access to their CRM and analytics and things, then those are all red flags for me.
So anything else? What about the size of the company?
Nah, I don't think size.
Are there startup red flags versus scale-up red flags? I
think it more than that. It's we have an ideal client profile, and do they fit in that? I once was in a meeting, a prospect meeting, and a new business meeting, and the guy was like, "I just expect everyone to F up," and I was like, "Well, you sound pleasant." If that's your expectation, then we're certainly going to screw up. So it's probably not a good fit. So it just depends. It depends. But we actually have a written ideal client profile, and we have questions with each characteristic to determine whether or not they'd be a great client for us.
Well, I wanted to thank you for taking the time to do this.
Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry I couldn't figure out the technology, but it's my pleasure.
I'm looking forward to, following up on the new course.
Thank you.
And seeing how that goes. I want to give another shout out to the Electronic Freedom Foundation, protecting your personal privacy online. More information at ericschwartzman.com/EFF. And I want to give a thanks to our two gold sponsors. Flux Branding is a world-renowned resource for defining your visual brand. Flux Branding is a group of creative visionaries and graphic designers dedicated to helping clients conceptualize and realize brand identities. And you can visit them online at fluxbranding.com. And Digital Dragon, where children can help develop their skills to prosper in the age of machines. Digital Dragon teaches digital literacy to tomorrow's programmers and technology entrepreneurs. More information at digitaldragon.com. Join us next week. I have an interesting guest next week. So many years ago, I founded a company called iPressroom. It was the first online newsroom service, and I sold it about 10 years ago to the former founder of Globe Newswire, who had just sold Globe Newswire to the NASDAQ. And he bought it from me. I kept a small piece. I'm still on the board. And managing that company, I'm not involved in the day-to-day at all. Managing that company has been a former PR Newswire rock star by the name of J.D. Bowles. He's been the CEO of what is now IPR Software. They changed their name. And join us next week. I'm going to have him on the show, and we're going to talk about what's going on with my investment. I want to know how my investment's doing. I'm going to grill him on how the company's doing, where the growth is. They're really one of the only sort of smaller soup to nuts all-in-one PR enablement platform, because they you can follow the wire from it. You can post to your newsroom. They've got a media database product. They've got integrated media monitoring, and they have analytics, which is pretty much the full stack that Cision, Meltwater, and Intrado have as well. So join us next week for that. If you're not watching this live, if you're watching the YouTube replay, head on over to PR Tech Wednesdays and sign up for the webinar. You'll get notifications, and then if you can't make it, you get an email to the replay as well. And if you are watching this on YouTube, like it and subscribe. This has been Eric Schwartzman, and this is PR Tech Wednesdays. Ginny, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next Wednesday.